Hi everyone, my name is Aman, and today I'm going to teach you the basics of Blender software. And we're going to make a small structure, just like Minecraft blocks. So let's start. This is the initial window, which pops up when you open the software to make a new file. Now I'm going to teach you the movement basics. You press the middle mouse button to rotate around, change your perspective, and you hold Shift and the middle mouse button to pan around like this. Middle mouse button, Shift plus middle mouse button. Now to zoom in, you scroll your middle mouse button. This is all the basics of movements which you're going to need. These are all the basics. Now, what I am going to do is make a tower and then duplicate those towers to make a structure. And to make that initial tower, I'm going to duplicate this block here, this cube right here. Now, to duplicate it, first you have to left click on the cube. This selects the cube, right click on the cube, and then duplicate objects. Now, the issue is I want to keep this duplicated block right on top of the previous one. Even if I try to, you can see it's not perfectly aligned. And see, now this is the movement tab here. You can use this to move the object in 3 dimensions. Now, even if I try to align it properly, it's going to be very hard for anyone to align them properly. See, every time something just gets left, it's really hard. I need to solve this problem because it is very, very sensitive. So first I'm going to delete this block. Now I'm going to go up here and enable this snap feature. Now, if I duplicate my block, I click on the block. Now, instead of right click and duplicating my object, I'm just going to press Shift plus D. This duplicates my object. And now look, if I move the object around, it isn't that smooth, that sensitive, right? This is because I enable that snap feature right here. The object sort of snaps while moving. It isn't that smooth. Now it's going to be really easy for me to align it. Just like that. That's how I duplicated a block and aligned it with the previous one. I am going to do the same thing and make a tower of 10 blocks. Shift plus D to duplicate and arranged. I'm going to select all the blocks at once instead of doing it one by one because that takes a lot of time. To select multiple blocks at once, you just hold your left mouse button and drag and select everything which is inside that box. Shift plus D to duplicate, and now I'm going to align. Just like that. How many blocks have we done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 more. Select them. Shift plus D to duplicate, and just align them. So simple to create a 10 cube tower, right? Now, this right here is the camera which I just selected. I am going to move it away so that I don't accidentally select it while selecting blocks or any other thing. And this is the light. We use this light to control lighting settings in our animation, like from where the light is coming in, where the shadow is going to go because of that light. So I'm going to move it away so that it doesn't get accidentally selected while selecting anything else. Okay, so now we have completed this tower. Now, it still doesn't look like a good tower. It needs to be structured. It needs to have some sort of shape. To give that shape, I'm going to change the dimensions of these blocks. Now, the dimensions of the blocks, you can change it in 2 ways. First, you select the block, and then you go on this scale tab here. Now, you can change it either dimension-wise, or if you want to change all 3 dimensions proportionally, equally, then you use this white circle like this. Okay. I'm going to delete this block since I just edited it and new one. To move the block, you go again in the movement tab the movement arrows come, and now you can align it. Okay, so this scaling tab is not very reliable because it's really hard to match the dimensions according to your needs. The blocks won't align if you use the scale tab very often. What you can do is select the block and come right here, click on this orange menu, this one, the object properties menu. And then in the scale, this right here, you can change the dimensions by putting in your desired value. I'm going to put in 2 and 2. Look at the block. It increased very proportionately. I'm going to do the same with the bottom block. So I changed the dimensions of the upper block to 2 and 2, and of the below one to 1.5 and 1.5. I left the third dimension unchanged. I'm going to do the same with the most bottom one. And 1.5 of the one above it. This has given it a nice structure. You can see that. Now, the thing is, we have completed our structure, but it is not very realistic, right? So what I'm going to do is above here, in the top right corner, this is the solid display mode. What I'm going to do is come in render mode, right? This button. When I activate it, you can see the effect of my light. Right, just a sec. Let me just move the light closer to the pillar, and you can see the effect of the light, the shadow. As I move the light, the shadow moves too. This is called render mode. Now, what I want to do is create a shadow of the pillar. For the shadow to be seen, I need a ground. And for the ground, I'm going to this top left tab. I'm going to go to Add, Mesh, and Plane. Now, this is a small plane that just got added. Now I'm going to enlarge it. How to enlarge it? You go on the left side, the scale tab, and then I'm going to enlarge it in every direction equally, just like that. And now you can see the shadow of the pillar. Once you obtain the shadow of the pillar, it's a very good practice that you come here in this menu, this one, and you enable ambient occlusion. What this does is give look at this area when I will enable ambient occlusion. It gives it these lines a little more detail, right? And now inside this ambient occlusion, I'm going to increase the distance from 0.2 to 2. Now look at what's going to happen. The shadows become somewhat darker in texture. Now if I increase the factor from 1 to 2, the shadows got darker. So this is just a slight way you can improve your quality of your animation, of your file, of your structure. Okay, so we have completed our structure. We have also given it a shadow. What's remaining now is a background. And now to give it a background, we are going to use an HDRI. Now, what is an HDRI? An HDRI, you can think of it as a 360 degrees image, which you can use as a background. To use an HDRI, you're going to come here, top right, this arrow button, and you're going to disable scene world. Now this ball, which you can see right here, this is one of the HDRIs, and you can select multiple of them. I'm going to select the one at the right side, this one. Now, but this, still the background, it's still not visible. For that, I have to increase the world opacity. If I increase, you can see the background is kind of visible, but it's still blurred. If you want it not to be blurred, you can reduce the blur. However, I prefer 0.5 just to avoid any sort of distraction. Okay, now one more thing in our background, which is something of a critical nature. The sun in my background is in that direction. So technically, the shadow of my object should not be in this direction here, right? it should be in this direction because the sun is facing that way. So the shadow should be this way. What I can do to change the direction of the shadow, I go and click on the light. Now I come here, this bottom right green button. This is the light settings. Now the light is set on point setting. This means that light, this source here, this acts like a point source of light. It emits light in all directions. But if I change it to sun, it emits light in only one direction. All the rays are going to be parallel to each other in just one direction. So the strength of this is too much. It's 1,000, so I'm going to reduce it from 1,000 to 2. Now it's a little more nicer. So now I can also change the angle from 11.42 and everything from to 2. And as soon as I input this, look at the shadow right here. It got a little bit darker. So the lesser your angle, the stronger will be the shadow. But the direction of the shadow is still not right. For that, I'm going to click on the light, this one, and then I'm going to click on this rotate tab, and I'm going to rotate the light just like that. What I'm doing is actually changing the direction from which the light is coming, which will change the direction of the shadow. So the sun is that way, the shadow is this way, which is a pretty realistic thing if you want to do animation. Okay, so now our structure is done, our floor is done, the shadow is done, the background is done. I'm going to remove the floor, the plane here, just to avoid any distraction because it somewhat confuses me. You may opt not to do it. I'm going to delete this. Now comes the very important. Also, I'm gonna just shift the slide away so that I can avoid accidental selection if I'm selecting anything else. And the camera is also that way. I'm gonna move it further away too. Okay, now our structure is ready. What I'm gonna do now is give it some sort of color. Now, to give it color, you have to do two things. You have to understand two concepts. First concept is material, and the second is texture. Now, what is material? You can think of it as, let's say, if block 1 has material 1 as its property, and block 2 has material 2 as its property, the software is going to treat them as blocks of different kinds. As if, just for an example, as if one is wood and the other is iron, just like that. And if you change the texture or any other quality of one material, the other won't be affected. This is a really important thing if you are making things with textures, so that you may not change the texture of all of them at the same time. You can understand what I'm saying. Let me just select the top block here. All right, now I'm going to come to this red circular button here on the right side, bottom right. And now you can see its material is this one. What I'm going to do is change its name by pressing this button, and I'm going to name it white. And I've just changed the name of that material. You can see this was the old material which I selected, which was there, and now I've changed it to white. Now, if I want to give this whole tower a texture, I'm going to come here to base color and click this yellow dot and go click on image texture. Now I have a folder in my system which I have downloaded from the internet. It contains various different types of textures. You can download it too. It's really common on the internet. So as soon as I set this image texture, you can see that my block it changed its color. This is a default color, the black one, which you can see right now. Why the color of the other blocks didn't change is because the other blocks are of the material whose name is material, and this block's material name is white. If I change this to material, it becomes white as well. Okay, so if I click on this, it becomes like that. Now, if I select all these blocks and I change their material as well, they will become white too. So let's just say all these blocks have this material right here, right? So what I'm going to do is give this material, named material, texture. All becomes black. Also, I am going to rename it. I'm going to rename it to white 1. Okay. Now, these black blocks, their material is white 1. They have been assigned a material, and now we're going to give them a texture. To give a custom texture instead of this black one, you're going to click on this open folder. Now on my desktop, as I told you earlier, I have a texture folder. In this, I have various textures. I'm going to click on this white JPEG, and it's going to change just like that. You see, it's really simple. This is material, this is material, this is material, this is material. All these blocks have the same material. Now, if I give them a texture, they are all going to become white. They all became white because they all had the same material, and I assigned a texture to that specific material. So all the blocks which are going to have that material will get that desired texture. Now, this is just the pillar of the structure. So I'm going to create a block of grass and then some blocks of the ground, like the sand and everything. For that, I'm just going to duplicate the block first. Done. Now, this first block is going to be the pillar. The second block, which is, I'm going to change its material. I'm going to rename it to green. Okay. And now I'm going to give it a new texture from my folder, green JPEG. Now only this block became green because I gave it a new material. I assigned it a new material. The system stores it as a different kind of block from the ones which are above and below it, the white ones. Similarly, the bottom one, I am going to change its material by clicking this button here, and I'm going to rename it to brown, just like that. And now to this brown material block, I'm going to assign the texture brown JPEG, just like that. Now I don't need to repeat this process again and again. I can just go on the bottom block and go here and select brown. Click on this one, click on this button and select brown, just like that. Our structure, basic structure is done. All that's left is to duplicate this again and again and make a sort of a room. I will just show you one of the edges, and then I will show you my complete program, my complete file, which I had done earlier, just to save some time. I'm going to move this camera away, just in case it doesn't get accidentally selected. Okay, so now and duplicate it. Shift plus D again and duplicate it. Just a sec. Shift plus D again and duplicate it. Move it. So you can see I have like duplicated it 4 more times. The edge has 5 pillars. I can also make another edge. I'm going to show you. For that, all I did was duplicate this first top block and the bottom one, just like that. And then I selected all of it, duplicated it, and then put it here. like that. Now, what I am going to do is just copy this whole thing again, duplicate it, and create another edge. It's really simple. It's just a matter of how many times you have to do this. The duplicated pillar is a bit misaligned, so I'm going to select it again and then move it. Just like that. I'm going to select it again, Shift plus D to duplicate, and I'm going to move it. Just once more. And there we go. So I'm just going to delete these two blocks because I don't want them in my structure. So this is the first edge, and this is the second edge or the face of my structure. Similarly, you can also like duplicate the grass and the soil below it, if you want to call it that, or just those blocks, if you want to call them blocks. You can just copy them all over the area below the whole structure. Now I want to show you the completed structure, which I had done earlier. It's just a matter of duplicating all these pillars and arranging them in specific alignments and ways. So I'm going to show you my file. I won't be saving this file because I already have a completed structure. So this is the structure which I made. It's still in solid mode. As I told you earlier, we're going to go in render mode. In render mode, it is like that. Now, one important thing which is left is the white blocks. What I did was I selected them all, and I went to this menu, select link, and I selected all the blocks which had the same material as this white one. What it did was that it selected all the white blocks for me instantly, and then after I selected them all, just like this, I went to object, and then I went to rigid body. Now, rigid body is, you can say, a sort of a fancy word for simulation. If I add this active feature to these selected blocks, what's going to happen is that when I toggle on the animation, these blocks will be able to move. For example, under the effect of gravity, they're going to fall down. But if I would have selected them as passive, they would not have been affected. So if I'm going to toggle the animation now, you can see which blocks are going to fall because of gravity and which ones are not going to. As you can see, the white blocks fell because I made them active blocks. The green and the brown ones didn't fall because I made them passive blocks. They are not affected by anything, the software. If you just want the blocks to like move a bit faster, what you can do is change the gravity settings, because this structure is actually looking small, but it's made in large scale. So these blocks are actually very big, and that's why they're moving a lot of distance, but to us it's looking very small. But if you still want them to move down faster, you can change the gravity settings from 9.8 to any magnitude that you want. So that is it. That's how you make this Minecraft structure using Blender software. Thank you. I hope you found this useful.